Burgess here with Music Marketing TV, and today we're going to be doing the intro video to XILS Lab. This is going to be a series that covers how to use XILS Lab and sound design with XILS Lab. So if you know what oscillators are, you pretty much know enough to start with this series. So let's jump right into it. XILS Lab is based on a modular synth, and because of that, you have to patch in everything. And at first glance, that seems kind of silly, but it actually opens up the doors to some very powerful sequencing that we'll be able to do later on in the series. But if you're brand new, it can be frustrating because you might not know what connections are needed because they've always been made for you. So let's go ahead and first clear this. So let's talk about how I got my view first. So we have 3 panels here in a keyboard panel. These 2 panels are synthesizers. There's 2 of them. And then there is an extra panel here with envelopes and a sequencer and some effects. Great stuff. We are not going to be worrying about the second panel today, but I almost always work in this view with 3 things because this is just a more clear view. I like being able to see everything in front of me. And for things that are small, like this, you can actually enlarge them and make them big. So that's really great. I love that. So let's go ahead and really quick show you how to change the size. So if you click this cog icon, display, and then go to 3 cab. Now I'm going to change to the one you probably start with, which is the GUI small or GUI. Someone got on me about saying GUI. And so I'm going to close this and open it, but you see it stays in the same form. This is because this setting needs to have a new one open. So if I open a new one, so here is a new one, and it opens up with a small, and you have these arrows to go between the left and right left and right synthesizer. So we have our left and right synth, and we can see those at the same time, or you can see our effects with one synth panel. So we could swap between the synth panels. I prefer, of course, the other version just because I like being able to see everything. And so I'm going to go ahead and switch that back, but that's how you change the display size. So, okay, now that we're here, I want to connect every single initial thing with you, and then the next videos will go over how the matrix works, because that is by far probably the most troublesome spot for most people. So we're going to talk about that and get going from there. So without further ado, let's clear every setting. So to clear settings, you can click on these, or you can right click on these, and that'll clear them. And then down here, we want to clear these guys in our trigger connection. Let's clear those. And also, in order to clear this just a bit faster, this right one's already empty. And I'm assuming you're on the preset initialization to oscillator left. And you can get to it by going to the factory for number 4, go to the lab, and there it is. And so if you're here, since this panel's already blank, we can just copy its settings over to the left panel. And so you can actually see from right to left. So it'll steal the settings from here. So if we just click that, bam, clears everything for us, including the trigger panel. So everything is being cleared. And now we can go ahead and embark on our journey of hooking everything back up so that we can understand how sound comes out. Because if you play right now, you can see the keyboard down here lights up. But alas, no sound graces our ears. So to grace our sound with ears, first we need to put some sound out. So if I enlarge it here by clicking this plus icon, oh, I'm on the wrong panel. So okay, I'm on the both panel. I want to enlarge this one, but for now, today we're going to worry mostly about main and a little bit of the stuff on extended. So we're going to go to our main matrix and we're going to click our plus. And routing is super easy. At first it looks intimidating, but you'll get the hang of it real quick. So routing, signals come in and then they go out. So just picture L's. So in and out, like the burger place. So we say, dude, man, bro, let's get a signal coming in. So I have an oscillator and I want to hear it. And so I want it to go out to my speakers. And so it's a common thing in synths to just call the speakers out because it's a 3-letter word. So that's really convenient. So we have an out 1 and an out 2. So I'm going to take my sine wave from oscillator 1. We have 3 oscillators, and we can take each oscillation independently, kind of a cool thing. And what we're going to do is we say, okay, here is the oscillation. I want to send this out. So to send this out, I will go ahead and send it out like this. But my question is, when I connect this to send the sine wave out, will it come out will it come out my left, my right, or both? Place your guesses now. All right, let's hear it. It comes out both. Now, to me, I thought for sure it'd be left, and that's because the levels are controlled independently. So those are actually stereo outputs, each one of these, stereo 1, stereo 2, and we can pan them. So if we want it to be left, right, we can pan the first one to be left and the other one to be right. So we actually can choose this. And so now it's coming out, the individual outputs. But if we control click to reset it and then set that back up, it's just mono now. Because if we look here and hover, it says, oh, we should be centered. There we go, C for centered. That's how the outputs work. Now, if you've never worked with a synth like this, oscillators, modular synths have oscillators and they just oscillate for like forever. So they need things to tell them when to turn on and off and also when to change the frequencies. So to facilitate this, I'm gonna come in here to my oscillator and I'm going to connect up the sine wave to an envelope. An envelope is a tool that tells the signal how to turn on and off. So I'm gonna send my oscillator, this sine wave here, I'm gonna send that to the envelope. And then the envelope, now our signal's in this thing called an envelope that tells our signal how to behave. And that is actually this guy right here. For now, we're gonna click up here and change it to ADSR. Most of your patches are gonna use ADSR. There are reasons to use the envelope shaper, but they are other reasons. We're just gonna use ADSR for now. So if we hit a key, we won't hear anything. So that's still a problem, right? But there's a couple of things right here that we're gonna adjust just ahead of time. First, bring your release down because that's gonna ring on forever. We don't want that. Our sustain is fine. Bring our decay up a smidge and we're done. Now there is a independent setting that's unique to this synthesizer. That is that we have a trapezoid envelope connected internally. So if this guy is gonna do his job, we have to let him do his job by saying this guy can do. This guy basically is like the gatekeeper. This is the parent. This is the child. This is the parent. If the child wants to do something, has to ask the parent for permission. So we're going to bring the signal up, basically saying we give you permission to do your job. And then the trapezoid, we're gonna bring this down. We'll talk about this later. This is like sort of the birds and the bees of parenting. We'll talk about that one later on down the line. So we have now said, hey, you know, you're allowed to do your job with this envelope. So if we come in here and open this, we say, okay, we've got it coming in our envelope. We've set up our envelope. We want to hear what's coming out of our envelope. So to do that, we actually have an input. So we went into our envelope. Now we want to come an output out of our envelope and out to the speaker. That's what we want. So we say, okay, here's our envelope signal. We're going to send that out output 1. Now, if we play a note, you would think we're going to get a sound, right? Because we're going to trigger the envelope, but we don't trigger it yet. No sound to speak of. And that is because our trigger connection has not been set up yet. So let's go ahead, click this, and we have a trigger connection. Now, you might think since we're using envelope signal, we want to use envelope. Oh, let's talk about what is a trigger. A trigger is something that just tells something to do something. There's a lot of somethings. So in this case, when we push a key, we want it to tell the envelope to turn on. And you see 2 envelopes here, and you're like, well, this is the first synth panel. And that's not how it's viewed here. I was doing air quotations way too early. Here we have synth panel left and synth panel right. There is not a synth panel 1 and a synth panel 2. So these two refer to something else. They actually refer to these envelopes. So it's kind of like a trap. It's a trap. Don't trust that. We want to control the parents, right? Trapezoid. Remember these guys? These are the parents, these two. So we want to tell it that when we hit a key, so like for example, keyboard on, so when we push a key on, to trigger this envelope. So that's what it's doing, we're triggering it. However, keyboard on, that's kind of a problem because there's no keyboard off really there. But if we play a note now, we should get a sound. It's just, actually this will work out for this envelope if we bring the, no. And you can see we got a sound, but it's not playing our envelope. What the heck is going on here? That's because it's a keyboard on. And what ends up happening is it immediately lets go of the key. It's just a spike. It's like you pushed a key and that's it. There's no, he's still pushing the key phase. And there's no, he let go of the key phase. It's just, he pushed it and then on off. That's it. And so we want to change that. So we're going to do that by using keyboard gate. Keyboard gate does that. And we only care about the left panel right now. So we're only going to activate it for the left one. And let's go ahead and click off that. And now when we hold down our key, we get more of what we're expecting. Now, so we see pretty simple, just a brief recall. It's just coming in the envelope and out the envelope. We had to get permission from the trapezoid, the parent envelope, to talk to the child envelope. We set this up. If we left the release where it was, it'd be, yes. I don't want it to ring that long. No, thank you. And so we have this set up. Now there's still a couple problems. The main one is I could push any key and the pitch information doesn't go there. And so we need to hook up our piano. We take these things for granted sometimes in digital synthesizers, but we need to tell it to change pitch. So in order to do that, we're gonna go to our extended matrix. And if we look here, we have a keyboard input. We actually have two keyboard inputs. You can actually change the settings on one, and that can be useful for some things, but we're not gonna worry about that right now. So here's our keyboard input, and we just wanted to control the oscillator's frequency. So to do that, we're just gonna take that input, or that output, however you wanna view it, I guess. It's an output. I don't know why I keep calling it an input. Our keyboard is gonna come in and then go out to the oscillators. So we're gonna say, okay, control the frequencies of these oscillators. And if you come down here, there's actually two keyboard follows, and this one's at range 50. This is gonna play notes like how we would expect. So now when we play your keys, oh, we got that pitch bend thing. That's portamento. Let's turn that off. We don't want that. And that's this button down here. It just puts a bend. When two notes are far apart, it'll like bend up. If they're close, well, turn it back on. There's still a bend, but it's like way more subtle. The further the notes are apart, the more obvious it becomes. But anyways, we'll turn that off. And we have here our sound. If I were to use keyboard 2 has a keyboard follow of 76, right? So you'd say, well, what would that sound like? Well, let's take these off and put those on. So I just tell keyboard 2 to control these oscillators. And I'll play a chromatic scale going down. So that sounds a bit wonky. The wonkiness is because we have the wrong keyboard follow. This can actually be kind of useful for some other things, but we obviously want the one that's pretty tonal. So there we have it. Now let's set up two more things, just two more things. I want to set up first polyphonic. So right now we're in mono. That's okay, but I want to work in polyphonic mode. And so mono just means we can only play one note at a time. So if I play a note, we can only play one. So if I'm holding 2, it's picking the lower one because we have it on low. If I play a note and then play a higher note, no note happens because the note priority is on the lowest note. If we make it the highest note, the high one will work, but the low one, as you can see, is not working. And if we make it last, it'll always pick whatever note was the last one we played. So if we push a note and let go, it'll go back to the note we were playing because we let go. It was the last note left. And so that's the priority, if you wanted to know how that works. But let's go in. We want polyphonic because poly means many, mono means one. So we want to play many notes. There's two kinds of polyphonic. We're not going to worry about it for now. Most of the time, we're just going to use reset poly. And now we can play multiple notes. Now our goal here is, okay, we've got multiple notes. We've got a sound. We've got an envelope. We've hooked up our pitch. And you might be thinking, this is a lot to hook up every single time. And the answer is, you don't have to hook this up every single time. Just start with the default patch. I just want you to know exactly what's going on here. And when something breaks, it's valuable to know where these steps are. So go ahead, unattach everything and reattach it and make this patch for yourself, just so you understand where things are, and even try doing a bit more of experimental patching. What we're gonna do is I wanna do one more thing. At the very end of our chain here, we've got some effects, and I'm gonna go ahead and take the left and right, and I'm gonna use this to put some reverb on our sound. So now we have a little bit of reverb. And there is something on here that's really nice, and we have, well, that would be the additional controls. So we have additional controls here, and I want to show you what these controls do really quick because they're pretty simple. First, we have a large hall, a medium, and a small. And we're simply telling it to take the left and right output of our synth, and that's what's going in to be reverberated. We also have the ability to turn it on and off. That is pretty self-explanatory. We have a pre-delay. So in a big room, right, if you yell, it takes a while for the sound to hit walls and come back to you. And this can often sound cleaner, and it's just a different aesthetic. So if we put on our pre-delay to be quite large, and maybe pretty big. Now we'll go bigger. See, so that could be an effect. Control click to reset it. We have level, that's just how loud. Further to dial in your reverb. Times how long it can ring for. So we make it like really long. And that's nice. We're gonna set that back to where it was. The last one, I'm gonna change from a sine wave. So we see we're on a sine wave. I'm gonna change that to a sawtooth. We notice these two are triangle. This is our only sine wave of the oscillations. So anyways, we're gonna send a saw wave to the envelope. So now we're playing a saw wave. And the reason I wanna play a saw wave is because damping will be more obvious with a saw wave. So damping is how fast the high frequencies in your reverb decay, how fast they go away. So with our damping all the way up, our high frequencies reverberate for quite a while. But if we put our damping really low, those high frequencies will die much faster. So you see they don't ring out near as long. Very nice, very nice. And so that is, in essence, how you get sound to come out of this and begin working with it. It's got a very analog sound, very cool. If you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe, hit the bell icon, because we're gonna be making more of these. We're gonna cover the synthesizer, and have a blessed day.